Hello and welcome. We are discussing PYQs of percentages and our theme is increment and decrements. We will understand the meaning of this theme with the help of example directly. Let's solve the problem. Now, this problem says two numbers x and y respectively 20% and 28% less than third number z. So here x is 20% less than the number z, which means x should be equal to 80% of z, which is equals to 0.8 z. Next statement says y, this y is 28% less than z, which means y should be 100 minus 28, that is 72% of z, which is equal to 0.72 z. See, whenever less than is written, see over here 20% less than is written, so what you will do, 100 minus 20, which is 80. So this x will be 80% of z, and over here 28% less than is written, so 100 minus 28 is what, 72. So y will be 72% of z. So in this way we have calculated x in terms of z and y in terms of z. Now the next statement says what percentage the number y less than the number x. So in the last statement we want to find out how much y is less as compared to x. So x is our reference value, x is our base value. Value of x is 0.8 z, so we will write down 0.8 z in the denominator, and we want to find out y is how much less than x. So between 0.8 z and 0.72 z, the difference is 0.08 z. I can say y is 0.08 z less than x, because the difference of these two values is 0.08 z into 100, which comes out to be equal to 10%. Hence the answer is option B. I hope guys this is clear. Now this is one way of solving this problem. Let's understand one more way in which we will not talk about variables. Now if you read this question carefully, x and y both are 20% and 28% less than z. So we are comparing with respect to z. So assume z is 100. Done. If z is 100, then x is 20% less than 100, which is 80. And y is 28% less than 100, which is 72. Now we want to find out how much percent y less than x. So y minus x upon x into 100. Less than x, so in the last statement we are comparing with x, so that is why the value of x in the denominator. So it comes out to be equal to y minus x, meaning 80 minus 72. 80 minus 72 is 8. Value of x is 80 into 100, which is 10%. Hence option B is the right choice. I hope guys this is clear. Let's move on to the next question. This says P scored 40 marks more than Q. So if you assume marks of Q to be Q only, then P's marks are 40 more than Q. This is the meaning of the statement 1. Next statement says if Q scored 10% less than P. Now try to understand, 10% less than P. Okay, so Q should be equal to 10% less. So 100 minus 10%. 100 minus 10 is 90. So score of Q should be 90% of P, which is equals to 0.9 P. Right? Now, this is your equation 1. This is your equation 2. Put value of Q from equation 2 in 1. So, Q is 0.9 P plus 40 equal to P. Keeping P on one side and 40 on the other side, so it becomes 40 is equals to 0.1 P. So P from here comes out to be equal to 400. Right? We are looking for the value of Q. So I know Q is equals to 0.9 P. 0.9 and the value of P is 400. So Q comes out to be equal to 360. Answer is option A. I hope class this is clear to everyone. Please write it down. Hurry up. Okay. Now, there is one more way of solving this question in which we will not use any kind of variables. We will do some assumption. Let me tell you that as well. Now, Q, it is written, there is P and there is Q. I know marks of P are 40 more than Q. 40 more than Q. So I can say marks of Q is also 40 less than P. Right? Now in the next line, Q scored 10% less marks than P. So as compared to P, marks of Q are 10% less. So in terms of percentage, it is 10%. And in terms of actual value, it is 40. So 10% correspond to 40. So 100% will correspond to 400. Now 10% of P it is. So 100% of P meaning total score of P. So total score of P is how much? 400. Total score of P is how much? 400. I know marks of Q is 40 less than P. So marks of Q should be 400 minus 40, which is 360. Answer is option A. This is the second technique for solving this question. Kindly make a note of it. Now, let's move on to the next question. Now, this question says P's salary is 20% lower than Q. So, there is Q, there is P, and salary of P is 20% lower than Q. So, if we are talking about P and Q, then comparison has been done with respect to Q. Our base value is Q. Now, which is over here has been referred to Q. So salary of Q is 20% lower than R. So if we have one more person R, so as compared to R, salary of Q is 20% lower. By how much percent? Now, let's try to visualize this statement mathematically first. Now there are more than one way of solving this question. You can assume some variables, you can assume some kind of XYZ here, but if you go like that, then solve the solution of this question will take a lot of time. So rather than assuming any kind of variable, kindly see the flow of data. Q is less than R and P is less than Q. So flow of data is from right to left. Okay. So assume salary of R to be 100. So what is 20% less than 100? 20% less than 100 is 80. So salary of Q will become 80. Now, salary of P is 20% less than 80. So what is 20% less than 80? So 80 into 20% less, 20% less, meaningly 100 minus 20. So salary of P should be 80% of salary of Q. 80% of salary of Q, meaningly 80% of 80, which comes out to be equal to 64. Done. Now the last line says how much percent R's salary is more than P. So we are comparing with P. So we'll write down salary of P in the denominator. That is 64 in the denominator. Further, it is written that R is how much more. So 100 is how much more than 64. So you can see 100 is 36 more than 64. So 36 in the numerator into 100. This is what we are looking for. So we can cancel it out with 4. 4 9s are 36, 4 16s are 64. Okay. Now, if we solve this, it will comes out to be equal to 56.25%. Kindly make a note of it. So I hope guys this is clear to everyone. Thank you so much.